Hey guys, I'm Urizi. This story is all about what if Sakura's character was rewritten. A rewrite of Sakura, in which a blunt and eccentric OC is placed into the body of Sakura Haruno at the start of the series. Nothing at all could possibly go wrong. Before we proceed with the story, please like and subscribe to this channel if you liked the video, and don't forget to check the description for the other works of the author if you liked the story. Let's start. Chapter 15, in which Kakashi knows. With care I sprinkled in a bit of my dried cilantro into the pot. The broth let out a happy bubble burp at that, and I took my scoop and stirred it around. The dinner was coming along nicely. It was filled with venison, wild mushrooms, dried herbs, and a touch of honey. The broth was a pretty light gold and the meat was at that perfect medium rare. Behind me I heard the resounding smack of earth being cracked open along with Hinata's shout of surprise. The fight against Kimimaro was going rather well. Naruto was able to run on without us to pursue Sasuke, while the rest of us minus me, and now Choji, who was being a sweetie and helping me grill the fish we caught, dealt with the poor boy. Kimimaro wasn't making it easy by any means, but the sheer number he faced, along with top-notch strategy and teamwork, spelled disaster for the kiddo. Choji flipped over the fish skewers over the crackling fire. "I think it's about ready." "Okay, thank you, honey," I told him. Raising my voice I called, "Dinner's ready." There were some sounds of relief and Kimimaro's frustrated shout, but it seemed it was too late for him. Shikamaru had him bound by his shadows, and Hinata and Neji worked flawlessly together to render him unconscious and disable his curse-marked chakra. With a merry skip I wandered over to my future harem member and thanked Hinata for being so gentle with him. Hinata smiled at me. "Of course. I'm sure Hokage-sama will be happy we were able to take at least one of them alive for questioning. Why don't you all get some food while I tend to him? He has a debilitating illness that requires near-constant treatment." The group said their thanks and went over to Choji while I slapped on a heart-pumping seal over Kimimaro's chest, courtesy of one Jiraiya, after I promised to take him out on the town next time he came to visit. The seal would last 12 hours and keep his heart pumping, which should be plenty of time to get him to Tsunade. I went ahead and tied him up and carried him over to our merry group. Kiba and Choji were happily slurping away at the soup while tearing off bits from the fish. Hinata, Neji, and Tenten ate at more lazy pace. I sipped on my own soup and struck up a delightful conversation about the joys of what having a future harem will be like. "I'll never be lonely," I listed on, "and every day will be a new adventure." "Yeah, I mean, what's the point of monogamy anyway?" Tenten muttered. "Monogamy is fine for some," I told her, "but I love too many people to be happy with only dedicating myself to one. And I want everyone I love to be happy and share their love, too. I think everyone would be happy if we all were one big harem." "You've never felt jealous before, have you?" Tenten asked me. "I have," I told her. "But not when it comes to love. Love is love." "That's certainly a progressive viewpoint," Shikamaru commented. Lee slurped down the rest of his soup. "What a delicious meal. You'll make someone a happy wife one day." "Ah, thank you. I do enjoy cooking," I hummed. "All of my good childhood memories come from a kitchen. Or padded room on fire. Daddy. You could set a pot of water on fire and make it taste like it came from a unicorn." Our group chatted for another half an hour, easily finishing the food, and then we headed out in search of Naruto. In comparison to the canonical storyline, we were a few hours ahead than normal, so I honestly wasn't sure what to expect. While we as a group moved faster, Naruto probably still got an equal amount of time with Sasuke. The real question would be if we arrived there before or after the princess left. 3 hours of sprinting and we broke through into the Valley of the End. I immediately sensed Naruto, but I couldn't find Sasuke's familiar static. Feeling surprisingly unsurprised, I headed down to my ball of sunshine. I scratched my cheek, leaning over my unconscious friend and poking his cheek. When he didn't stir at my probing, I squatted down and placed a glowing green hand over his forehead. I could feel Hinata stirring beside me with obvious worry. "Is Naruto-kun okay?" "He's dinged up, but he'll be fine," I reassured her. Kiba approached us, a frown on his face. "I can't make out Sasuke's scent." All I smell is Naruto. That's odd, I murmured, looking around. I suppose it's possible someone else came to get him and masked his scent or whom. Zetsu? He watched the battle. He definitely doesn't want a lot of Uchiha around since they could pose a threat to his precious Kaguya's return. He might be actively helping Sasuke get to Orochimaru in hopes the Sun-In will kill him. It's possible, but seems like a stretch. I don't think we'll find the answer anytime soon, not enough information to draw a conclusion. What I do know is that I delayed Sasuke's return enough that he should be safe with Orochimaru for at least 3 years. Sort of a mission success. Sort of indeed. We won't be able to catch him at this rate, not if Kiba can't find his scent, which is really weird. Okay, I said out loud, drawing the team's attention towards me. We're going home. What? Kiba demanded. We can't. We've lost our lead, we're all tired, and I'm nearing chakra exhaustion, I explained. Frankly, I won't even be able to tree hop all the way home. We're in no shape to go across countries, which is what we'll have to do to pursue Duck Butt. Naruto needs medical attention, too, the kind that I can't provide with my chakra level. And we have a live hostage. Shikamaru sighed. She's right. It'd be too risky to try and continue. Let's regroup and take care of our allies. I nodded. Thank you for your support. In case I happen to pass out on the way home, Shikamaru is in charge in my absence. Kiba still looked ready to protest, but Hinata placed a calming hand on his shoulder. Hinata nodded towards me. S-chan is right. We have to think about this carefully. Then let's head out, dearies. I'm 100% ready for a shower and some sweet, Kakashi-sensei booty. The return back to Konoha went by quickly. Probably because I passed out about a quarter away from the village and Hinata ended up carrying me the rest of the way. Chakra exhaustion was annoying. In all of my lives I had never felt so exhausted. The drain of having practically no chakra was debilitating and incredibly unpleasant to feel. When I woke up I was at the hospital, and I went ahead and discharged myself so I could give my verbal report to Tsunade. Shikamaru had already given the brief report, but since I was the original leader of the mission I was obligated to give my own verbal report. Once I was done, Tsunade made a sound and commented, "Jiraiya will be coming back to Konoha in a couple weeks." I reflected my previous conversation with her. Ah, good. There's a lovely barbecue over on Shita Street. Tsunade nodded. I heard about it. Would you do me the honor of joining me for lunch there? I think Jiraiya would enjoy it, too. Yes. That sounds like a good idea. We smiled pleasantly at one another and I said my goodbyes. How Kakashi found out about the partnership. Kakashi was tired. He was covered in dried blood, bits of gore, and exhaustion weighed heavily upon him. The mission he had been on for the past week and a half had turned sideways by sheer dumb luck. All he wanted to do was go home, shower, and take a much-needed nap before reporting to the Hokage. Unfortunately his sour luck persisted because he smelled 2 familiar people in his apartment the moment he reached the door. Sakura and Naruto. Under better circumstances Kakashi would have hogtied them and tossed them into the forest of death with orders along the lines of "Wanna break into someone's home? Spend the week here." As it was, though, Kakashi was honestly too tired. A part of him was strongly irritated by the intrusion, but the other part of him was beyond caring. He knew Sakura visited his apartment nearly every day to leave endearing notes, so he wasn't surprised she went ahead and let herself in. There had even been an occasion where Kakashi returned home to find a hot meal waiting for him with a note saying, "Eat well, love." It was the best meal he had ever eaten, but he told Sakura he fed it to Pakun. Her devastated look was pretty funny. Kakashi hesitated at his front door, wondering what sort of surprise they had in store for him. He really only wanted to take a shower and nap, but something told him that wouldn't be happening anytime soon. He debated on going to a hotel and renting a room, but then recalled that Sakura was a censor and she probably already sensed him. If he left suddenly, she was bound to follow. Then it'd be best to get it over with. So, with great trepidation, Kakashi entered his apartment. Rose petals were scattered everywhere. There were rose-scented candles lit up and placed on nearly every surface he could see. There was a large concentration of rose petals on the floor, leading to his bedroom. Naruto was also dressed in all black and holding a video camera. Kakashi could see the little red dot that meant it was recording. Those things are expensive. Where'd he get it? Kakashi immediately wondered. Where'd you get the camera, Naruto? Requisitioned. Pretend I'm not here. The temptation to leave and rent a hotel room was getting stronger, but Kakashi knew if he did that then Sakura would retaliate in some manner. Reluctantly, Kakashi started to make his way to his bedroom. Naruto moved a pace ahead of him, camera directly on his face. So they want a reaction? I'm pretty well adapted to insanity that is Sakura by this point, though. What could she possibly do to make me react in such a funny way that they have to record it? Kakashi entered his bedroom, unsurprised to find Sakura lounging on his bed in a night dress meant for women much older than herself. She had a rose in her mouth and upon seeing him she started to wiggle her eyebrows up and down. Kakashi resisted the urge to snort at the display. Hello, Sakura. Dearest, Sakura returned, plucking the rose out of her mouth and holding it out to him. I have the best news. Oh, really? Oh, yes. You see, everyone on Team 7 was promoted to Chunin, Sakura said, a wicked smile on her face and a devious gleam in her eyes. Kakashi wasn't surprised in the least about that. He recommended each of them for the promotion, and they all did exceptionally well in the exams. Is that it? Oh, no. You see, since everyone on Team 7 is now a Chunin, the team is officially dissolved. Kakashi knew that would be the case, too. They would still go on missions together, but he was officially done being a genin instructor. Record time, too. So Tsunade-sama, in her infinite wisdom, decided to assign me to a jonin, for life. Okay. Made sense. Sakura was a budding Irionin, so it would make sense Tsunade wanted her to stick with a jonin. All of that was good news, so he could understand why his team wanted to celebrate, but he didn't see why the camera. Oh. No. Kakashi felt a cold sweat on the back of his neck. He didn't want to ask her, because he was terrified of the answer. Who's the lucky jonin? Sakura's smile split across her face. You, of course. That was the last thing Kakashi remembered before his mind blanked out and he stood catatonically in his bedroom for 5 hours straight. Sakura and Naruto, he later learned, taped him for another half hour while giggling before they took their leave. His 1,000-yard stare was apparently priceless. Chapter 16, Something About a Rock. Son, Mom, Dad, I'm gay. Mom. Dad. Mom, don't you fucking do it. Dad. Mom, don't. You. Fucking. Do it. Dad, hi gay, I'm Dad. Anonymous. Dear Haku. Please see the attached fine art I drew of Zabuza and Mei. As a fellow shipper I feel it is my obligation to share with you such treasured things. I have already hung up your own fine art of the two on my fridge, and I must say I'm very proud of you, my dear. On a side note, I'm glad that you two are being welcomed back to Kirigakure. I really hope you enjoy your new life there. Please be sure to send me some Kiri exclusive food. I'll send you more opera cake once you give me a permanent address to send these letters to. I'll keep this brief since I know you and Zabuza are busy with the move. Keep up that smile, honey. With love. Sakura. Dear Gara. Will you pretty please take me sand surfing when I come to Suna? Pretty please with a cherry on top. And whipped cream. And chocolate. Also. I drew a picture of the two of us. Since we're now besties, we obviously need pictures of one another. This one is for you to keep, and I'll keep another one at my place. No, I haven't had Suna buns before, but I'm always happy to try new things. Send some my way, okay? How's the weather today? Did it rain again? Do you like to go spelunking? Let's have dinner next time we meet. Lots of love. Sakura. Dear Duck Butt. You won't be getting these letters for like 3 years, I know. But I thought you might enjoy staying in the loop, so I'll write to you when I can and store it in a scroll to give to you next time we meet. Naruto said you're gone. He misses you. I may be his best friend, but you're still like a brother to him. Kakashi bemoans the fact that the only sane person on the team is gone. I miss ya too, I guess. I cleaned up your home, and I saw the papers you left for me. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. Naruto and I recorded Kakashi's reaction when I told him we would be partnered forever and ever. I drew a picture on the back of his face. You were right, he did go into the 1,000-yard stare. It was pretty funny. Hope you're having fun. Sakura. Life without Sasuke wasn't terrible. The biggest downer, aside from obviously losing a friend for a few years, was that Naruto was pretty sad he wasn't able to convince Sasuke to go back. Ah, that was actually worth mentioning. Sasuke didn't try to kill Naruto. In fact, Sasuke didn't use the Chidori at all against Naruto. Sure, they hammered away at one another, but all of Naruto's injuries were put down focus rather than kill focus. Sasuke knew it would take quite the beat down to make Naruto fall unconscious, so he didn't hold back much, but he refused to honestly try to kill Naruto. Naruto said that Sasuke was more upset that Naruto wasn't more understanding like me, actually. He said that going to Orochimaru was something he had to right now, but it didn't mean he was outright abandoning Naruto and me, which was what Naruto accused him of doing, and that in time we would all be reunited. After he killed his brother, of course. Then Naruto got all huffy and pissy, and the two fought with Sasuke coming out as the victor. Gotta admit I felt a little proud of how well that turned out. The fact that Sasuke didn't try to kill his best friend felt pretty damn swell. The fact that I somehow was the reason for it? Even better. Who knows? Maybe we'd get a happy ending. Returning to the point. Naruto was bummed about Sasuke, but he didn't let it keep him down. He trusted me when I said we would get a chance to bring him back home. Kakashi took the news surprisingly well, then again we told him after the whole partnership ordeal, so he was probably still in shock. And life went on. It was actually about a week after the whole ordeal before I got sent out on my very first mission with Kakashi as my partner. It was a minor thing, nothing major or all too difficult, but Tsunade wanted us to start small before giving us the big stuff. Likely because she was under the impression that we both needed practice working side by side, and Kakashi had to get used to not having anyone else around to provide a buffer between us. Silly man. So we were sent out on a mission to retrieve a pet. Not just any pet, though, because Team 7 had a lovely curse called everything C and above turns into an S. It was great fun, of course. This particular mission happened to be the mission for Legend of the Stone of Galil, or the second Naruto movie. After only a day of tracking we found the missing pet. A ferret with the softest fur and the cutest whittle nose. It had been running about in a small forest near the outskirts of the Land of Fire. Kakashi was able to hunt it down with ease, and he explained his process of tracking to me while he did so. With Jonin ease he grabbed the little creature as it darted out from underneath the trees, easily picking it up by the scruff and holding it away from his face so it wouldn't scratch him. I hopped down from my perch in the treetops and applauded him. Man, why didn't you ever help us with Tora? Would have taken half the time. Kakashi tossed the ferret to me. Jonin typically don't have to deal with pets. I got the little critter, easily handling him and placing him in the carrier. I took another look at him, though, since he seemed oddly familiar. Oh. A wide grin stretched over my face and I looked up at Kakashi. Kakashi. MN. Kakashi looked back over me, his only visible eye narrowing when he saw how excited I looked. Did you have an epiphany for your strip poison? Well, no, I admitted, a little sad about that. But the goggle gods have blessed this mission. A look of disdain flickered over his face. Oh. Great. What is now? Another evil tyrant about to take over the whole country. Yeah. Seriously. Yeah. Let's go save the world, Kakashi. Looks like I'll get to add someone else to my harem, too. Fantastic, Kakashi muttered dryly. Don't worry, my love, I soothed. You will always be the first. I'd rather I wasn't part of it at all, Kakashi said mournfully. Are we going to need backup? Nah, I dismissed. We've got this easy peasy. Kakashi sighed. Okay. Let's get this over. I bit my thumb and summoned Gadu and Doku. Both salamanders crawled onto my shoulder. Gadu nuzzled into me, giving me a brief kiss on the cheek with her adorable little tongue. "How might we assist, Sakura Hime?" I scratched both of their heads. "I'd like a strong dose of drunken bliss and its antidote. A fellow we'll be meeting soon is a long-lost boy about to reunited with his people, but he'll want to fight an ugly piece of POO first. We can't let him do that, so I want to make sure he's nice and inebriated when we drop him off with his people. Enough that he won't be able to go anywhere on his own, but aware enough he'll be able to talk with his people. I'll give the antidote to the wise old man. Find Deku's tail slashed in the air. We expect a cake in return. Whatever you want, baby." Both salamanders tucked themselves away into my hoodie pocket and I slung the carrier, that had the ferret inside, over my shoulders. Kakashi and I moved towards the village we were supposed to drop off the ferret and I gave him a brief rundown of the situation. "So Evil Guy, henceforth codename Evil Piece of POO, wants to rule the world," I began, "and he and his follows run on this energy that's not chakra." "What?" "Yeah, no, it's great. Medical mystery for us Irionin and I'm super pumped to learn more about it. A New York whore, so we'll be fighting blonde cutie patootie soon who is actually a sweetheart. He'll be easy to persuade on our side and I want him as a member of my harem." "Okay. Don't kill the blonde." "Don't kill the blonde," I agreed. "Kill everyone else, though. After we clean them up we'll head to the temple and restore life to the surrounding lands." Kakashi took the information in stride. "So kill bad guy, and then head to some kind of temple and restore life." "You got it. We'll need the blonde fella to do it, though. Therapy no jutsu time. Alright. The first kinds of enemies we face will be puppets. Gotta shatter them completely to keep them down. They're essentially walking suits of armor." Kakashi inclined his head at that. "Is there a puppet master nearby, then?" "Not really. They're being controlled by a bunch of orphans trapped in the fortress." "Sort of. It's complicated, but you'll see what I mean." "Okay," Kakashi said slowly, drawing out the word. I beamed. "This is gonna be a lot of fun." "Sounds like it." The trip to the nearby village was nice. It was one of those beautiful days where the sun was shining, the wind blew often enough to keep the warm day from getting too hot, and the pollen count was fantastically low. Hopping from tree to tree, then sprinting down the dirt road only gave me more time to appreciate the scenery. In my previous life I wasn't allowed outside a whole bunch, and the mental institution was in a city, so I had never been to the country, or any place with more than one tree. The Naruto-verse really was utterly gorgeous, and brimmed with life. Sure, it might have been brutal or murder-happy, but damn was it pretty to look at. It also helped that I got to sneak peeks at one of the hottest shinobi the world had to offer. Kakashi adamantly pretended not to see me ogling him. He made sure to keep pace with me so I wouldn't be behind him, unfortunately. "One of these days you're gonna piss off the wrong person with your blatant staring," Kakashi commented. "I have faith in my wooing abilities to persuade them to let me off the hook," I said confidently. "If by wooing you mean stalking until you grow on them like a fungus, then yes. Your wooing abilities are remarkable," Kakashi said dryly. "You're sassy today, ain't ya?" I giggled. Kakashi gave me a deadpan look. Winking, I blew him a kiss. "I adore you. I tolerate you." Progress. Predictably we came across Hato's group of soldiers as we neared the village. They shambled out of the bushes, big bulking black suits of armor. Kakashi dove towards them with impeccable speed and precision. He didn't bother wasting his chakra with ninjutsu, as he was fully capable of destroying them in completely one-sided bouts of taijutsu. I stayed largely out of his way, dancing around the suits and throwing out explosive tags. I aimed for the spaces between the helmets, and took out several of them with some nicely aimed attacks. Naruji squeaked and squirmed in his pack, clearly afraid of the attack. Spinning around to avoid one of the armors, I leapt backwards and threw down another explosive tag. Ah! Explosions are truly beautiful. I wonder if there's a explosive tag that explodes in color. Oh! Rainbow explosions. We could really make an art show. I made a mental note to ask Naruto once he inevitably became a Fuinjutsu master to create multicolored explosive tags. It couldn't have been more than 5 minutes before Kakashi and I thoroughly destroyed all the empty soldiers, and then along came the cutie patootie, Temujin. He approached silently, with a regal air about him. He was dressed as a knight, and wore a helmet to cover his adorable face. I squealed. My future honey. Kakashi leapt down to stand beside me, giving Temujin an assessing look. This him, then? That's him. Please be gentle. MN. Kakashi dashed towards Temujin, and the cutie did a good job dodging at first. Then Kakashi, with his jonin speed, abruptly turned back around and dug his knee hard into Temujin's back. It completely dented Temujin's armor and sent the poor boy careening away. Kakashi flickered towards him before he could even touch the ground, and kicked him so hard into the ground it left a little crater. He did all of that with his hands in his pockets. Sweetie, was all Kakashi muttered, kneeling down towards the unconscious boy. You're so brutal, I sighed dreamily, skipping over towards them. That's why you're the topper. Please stop. You can't ask me to stop flirting with you when you read porn in public in front of children. I smiled sweetly. Speaking of which, when I went down to the bookstore to buy my complete set of Icha, they were mysteriously out. Kakashi innocently looked away. Really? What a shame. Sold out barely an hour before I went in. Quite the coincidence, I'd say. Or it's a sign from the goggle gods for you to not read it. Don't be absurd. The goggle gods adore my perverseness. They relish in making people uncomfortable. Why, one of our high priests, Deadpool, would be thoroughly ashamed of me if I didn't make someone uncomfortable on a daily basis. It's how I show my devotion. Of course it is. I tied Temujin up with ease, squatting down beside him and healing up his scrapes and bruises. I popped off his helmet, and wiped away the blood that he had coughed up when Kakashi completely kicked his ass. He had a sweet angelic face. Nowhere near as adorable as Hinata, but definitely in the same ballpark. Kakashi squatted down on the opposite side of me, assessing the teenager. I cracked my knuckles and placed a glowing green hand over his forehead. Temujin snapped awake, his body stiffening and his eyes wide with disbelief. He tried to speak over his gag, but it was hard to make out what he said. Sheesh. Time to listen, sweetie. He glared at me with bright red eyes. Your name is Temujin, I began, and you've been tricked. That man that you serve Hato has been lying and manipulating you for years. The look of outrage on his face was entertaining. I want you think back, I continued, think back to when your village was destroyed. I want you to remember the face of the man who killed everyone. Temujin only continued to glare at me. I looked up at Kakashi with a shrug. He saw him killing his parents, but it looks like he repressed the memory. If only Sasuke had that level of deniability, Kakashi remarked. I might not even be on this mission. I snorted. Nah. She'd stick you with me regardless. Kakashi sighed. Probably. What did you do to make her so pissed? Ma. Who can say? Kakashi scratched the back of his head. We can try EMDR. Know his trigger words. Kakashi, I didn't know you knew about EMDR. You mean there's something you don't know about me? Well, we can always fix that, I purred, winking at him. How about a date when we get? I didn't even see the kunai coming, but the blunt end of it slammed against my forehead and I rocked backwards. With a whine, I clutched at my poor forehead and gave Kakashi a mock-wounded look. He was entirely unabashed. Do you know this kid's triggers? Maybe? I can guess. Alright. We'll give it a shot. Kakashi took off Temujin's gloves and placed his hands carefully on top. Temujin eyed both of us warily, his red eyes flashing. I hummed, peering at him. Let's try. Father. Electricity danced off of Kakashi's hands, gently shocking Temujin. Not enough to harm, but plenty to jolt him. The prince glared at us hatefully. Okay. Mother? No? Village? Huh. Oh my goodness, don't tell me. Stone of Galil. Of course it was the movie title that triggered Temujin's memories, because irony was a beautiful mistress that would not be denied. Temujin's eyes glazed over as he reflected on his memories. Then a look of horror washed over his face and all the color drained away from him. Tears pricked at his eyes and he rapidly shook his head as if to deny his memories. I cut loose his gag, and Kakashi pulled out his porno, perfectly happy to read while I tried therapy no jutsu. I wrapped an arm around his shoulder, gently patting his back. "It's okay, my dear. Hee hee." The poor boy bowed his head in grief and betrayal, and Kakashi and I politely pretended to ignore his tears. I continued to rub his back, though, since I enjoyed it when Kakashi did that to me while I was grieving. After a couple of minutes passed by, Temujin looked up abruptly, his brow furrowed. "How did you know?" "I didn't even." "Sakura is a special case," Kakashi absently answered for me. "It's okay now, though," I soothed Temujin. "You don't have to go back to that evil man. Kakashi and I will take care of him. No, he's too strong and I need to confront him. Then we'll bring him to you all tied up." With a little bow, I cooed. "Right now, though, I think you should meet with your people. You're the last of the royal life, after all." "Of course he's a long-lost prince," Kakashi muttered under his breath. He looked up at the sky in despair. "There's no such thing as a normal mission with her, is there?" "My people." "That's right, darling. They're good folk. You'll be safe with them," I said. Temujin's head snapped in, his eyes widening in sudden realization. "Wait. My friends, that man has other orphans. I must rescue them." "Leave that to me and Perfect Butt Sensei," I soothed him. "Right now we need to take you to your real people, and you ought to learn about who you really are. I cannot allow that. Either you comply or I knock ya out and strip you," I threatened sweetly. "She will, too," Kakashi added blithely. I don't want to stress our relationship like that so early on, though, so why not comply? I give you my word that we'll save everyone. I swear on Madara's sexiness." Temujin was clearly conflicted. I cannot allow that. I must face him. I gave him a good old throat chop and knocked him out. Yeah, no. The whole point of being blessed with the future is to avoid unnecessary drama and death. And you sneaking off to fight the big bad guy on your own practically screams Deus Ex Machina for added suspense. Kakashi let out a snort, bending over and tightening Temujin's ropes. "Let's drop him and the rodent off at the caravan." "Yeah, good call. Then we'll go save the world." "Fun." Kakashi looked up at the sky with unhidden exasperation. It didn't take us long to find the caravan, and it only took us a couple of minutes to have the wise old man aka Kahiko in front of us. I happily handed over Narogui, and the man's face lit up. "Narogui? Oh, thank you for returning him. Why didn't you give him over to the nearby village, though? It was ransacked and destroyed." What? I bowed towards Kahiko, and Kakashi unceremoniously dropped the unconscious Temujin onto the ground. "I'm so sorry to cut this short, but an evil piece of POO is currently on the hunt for the Stone of Galil while using the Book of Galil. He's the one that destroyed the nearby villages." Kahiko's eyes widened at the fact I blurted out such a zealously guarded secret of his clan. What? "Yeah, so we're gonna go stop him before he can do that," I explained to him quickly, straightening back up, "but," I pointed towards Temujin, "that guy's important. He's of royal blood for you guys, if you know what I mean." "Well, you'll figure it out when he wakes up, Narogui will be able to confirm it." What? "So would you mind taking care of him for a bit? He's completely clueless about the clan history and whatnot," I went on. "He also wanted to go after the evil piece of POO, and we can't have that, so I gave him a little bit of poison so he'll stay put. Here's the antidote. Don't give it to him until we're back, please, unless some kind of emergency pops up." "Wait." I tilted my head at Kahiko's flustered outburst. "Yes. How do you know all this? Are you really who you say you are?" "I've been blessed by the goggle gods," I told him. "They sometimes let me see the future. Don't worry about it. Temujin will probably be able to explain more when he wakes up. Now if you don't mind, we really gotta go kill an evil piece of POO." Then I turned on my heel and took off, not giving the wise old man a chance to refuse. They'd take Temujin in, and once the cutie woke up Narogui would be all over him. That alone should satisfy the Kahiko's beliefs enough to tell Temujin their history. Then once I returned when the Book of Galil that should confirm everything else. Kakashi and I moved quickly, Pakun in front of us as the adorable doggy backtracked Temujin's scent all the way to the fortress. As we moved, I explained what I could about the enemies. Evil piece of POO is technically called Hado, I told him, and he's pretty much like Lord Ugly from the Land of Snow. All those armored things are basically puppets. Once we free all the orphans they'll collapse. He's got 3 knights that I'd place around Chunin level. There's Bat Lady, who can turn into a bat hybrid and is decent at genjutsu, Wolf Lady, who turns into a werewolf, and Monster Lady, who discharges lightning out the ass. Figuratively and literally. Bat Lady is agile, but pretty weak. She can fly, though. Wolf Lady is bloodthirsty. And Monster Lady is easily countered with lightning rods, because for some reason they also hurt her. Kakashi took everything in, nodding briefly. MN. Okay. You and Pakun focus on freeing the orphans. I'll summon the rest of the pack to accompany you. You deal with whoever gets your way, and I'll assassinate Hado. We'll clean up the rest afterwards. Raising my hand, I gave him a salute. Yes sir. Kakashi scratched his cheek. Once that's taken care of, I'll send out a runner to Konoha and let them know about the fortress and the strange energy that's not chakra. Think of all the experiments we'll get to do. I exclaimed happily. If Konoha can replicate the energy source, I can only think of that being a good thing. Clean energy is always good. Energy that can also power some crazy powerful fortress? Even better. 3 hours later the walking fortress was in sight, and the 2 of us split up. Okay, well, I had the pack with me, so it wasn't exclusively the 2 of us. I lead the pack around the back, and we climbed up the wall and snuck into one of the windows. Time for some sneaky stealth like Batman, I thought, flipping up onto the ceiling. The pack followed me up, but Pakun allowed me to carry him. No one could resist holding such an adorable puppy. Bisque took the lead, already catching the scent of a bunch of kids. We ran down the hallways, easily avoiding the mindless suits of armor that lumbered below us. None of them bothered to look up. I felt like a rogue in Skyrim with stealth at 100, sneaking around Whiterun and stealing everyone's clothes. Despite being so ridiculously close to my victims, none of them saw me. This is fun, I thought gleefully. I wish I could get hired to steal something. I bet I would make a kick-ass jewel thief. Bisque lead us into the room with the orphans. As soon as I saw them, I backflipped off the ceiling and landed onto the metal flooring. The pack spread across the room, sniffing at all the unconscious children. Are they gonna be able to walk? Pakun asked me. Probably not. I can make 3 earth clones, though, and each one can carry 2. Bull could easily take 4. We only gotta figure out how to move the other 8. I could take 2 if someone ties them to me, Akino offered. I can handle 1, Shiba added. Bahei and Uroshi both agreed to that. So all that's left is 3. If I tied them to my earth clones, they could carry 3 each instead of 2. Let's shoot for that, then. The pack and I went about destroying the glass spheres that contained the children, catching each of them before they fell and hit the floor. We moved as fast as we could, hoping to avoid unnecessary conflict since we now had live hostages to worry about. Pakun let out a soft growl. Someone's coming. They're moving slowly, and they're alone, so they likely don't suspect anything. We stay together, I instructed. Let's see if we can take M by surprise. The pack moved as one, leaping up onto the walls then onto the ceiling, with most of them carrying children strapped to their backs. My clones followed suit, 2 kids tied on the back and 1 in front. I almost laughed at how ridiculous my clones looked carrying them like that. It was like I was a pack mule, or something. I grabbed my own 2 designated kiddos, moving them out of the way so that way I could deal with whoever was coming. I stood above the doorway, poison-coated kunais in each hand. Then in walked one of Hado's knights, specifically, the lady that shot out lightning. Ranka. I thought. Damn, she's hot. Why must the bad people be so attractive? It must be a law in this universe. The Madara law. Ranka took 1 step in the room, then gasped in surprise at seeing all the empty spheres. Her head swung around, looking for an explanation, and that was when I dropped down on top of her. My legs landed on her shoulders and I dug my kunai deep into her eye, and straight to her brain. She collapsed, and I ripped my kunai out of her. "Oh, movie goons," I thought fondly. "Never change." "Okay," I said with a big grin. "Let's head out of here and meet up with my future husband." The pack snickered at that. Kakashi met up with us at the rendezvous about half an hour later, carrying a tattered book that he tossed over to me. "This what you need?" "Ah, yes, the Book of Galil. The wise old man will be happy to have this back," I said happily. Kakashi glanced around at the pack. "You already send Biscoff to Konoha?" "Yeah. Let's drop these kids off with the caravan and give my future harem member the good news. Then we can go home, and I can see if I can find a copy of Icha for sale." "Perfect." I politely ignored his sarcasm. "Dear Sakura, I've sent you a package of baked goods. They should be arriving shortly. I have to keep this brief since Zabuza needs me, but I must thank you for the fine art. I'll treasure it and try to keep it out of Zabuza's sight for as long as possible. Love. Haku. Sakura." "Okay. I will frame it." "Okay. Dry." "No. I don't know." "Okay. Do you have a thing called a hobby?" "Gara. Dearest Sakura, I must thank you for my very own harem waifu sweater. Your knitting skills are certainly impressive, as it's incredibly comfortable and form-fitting. Side note, my best bay sweater with matching underwear has gone missing. Would it be too much trouble to ask for another pair? They were favorites. I have begun negotiations with Tsunade about a proper alliance between your village and the Land of Spring. The talks have begun in earnest, and I'm positive we'll be able to form a proper contract that leaves both parties happy. I've made sure that Tsunade knows she has you to thank for this. I'm looking forward to trying that new recipe. I've sent it off to the chefs and they promised to have it made for me by the weekend." Opera cake sounds fascinating. Wherever do you come up with these words? I'm sorry to hear about your teammate. I hope he recovers from brood avangeritius and rejoin your team. Many congratulations on your promotion, and your partnership. Eager to hear from you. Lady Yuki. Kakashi is grumpy. Sakura slides in to stand beside him and wiggles her eyebrows. Is little Kakashi in poor health? Shall I give him some mouth-to-mouth? Kakashi, mortified. No. No, that line don't tell me. Sakura holds up the first installment of Icha with a wicked smile on her face. Kakashi is inwardly crying. Kakashi is helping Sakura stitch a wound on her back she can't reach. Sakura winks at him. Do you work for the postal service? Because I see you checking out my package. Kakashi jabs the needle violently into her back. Sakura, ah. Ow. Ow. I'm sorry. I take it back. Sakura is awaiting Kakashi outside his door for their next mission. Kakashi-kun. Don't keep me waiting. Kakashi, eyebrow twitches. 10 minutes pass. Sakura breaks open the door. Only latex should stand between our love. Kakashi, squeaky horrified noises. Sakura, eyeing Kakashi across a campfire on a mission. Kakashi, giving her a look of disgust and reluctance. Sakura, why don't you let me come over there and sit on your lap, and we'll discuss the first thing that pops up. Kakashi uses a Suten jutsu. Drink some water, thirsty girl. Sakura, man, all these pickup lines are hard to do without a dick. Kakashi, why can't you use them? Kakashi, I cannot say no enough to that. Sakura. Was your daddy a baker? Kakashi, oh my god, stop. Sakura, because you have the nicest buns. Hee 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 hee. Kakashi is banging his head against a wall now. Chapter 17, Wild Tree Baby appears. I scratched at my suddenly itchy forehead, feeling vaguely annoyed. Well, maybe a teeny tiny more than vaguely annoyed. It happens, Kakashi tried in vain to soothe me. It doesn't happen, I disagreed. Name one other time it's happened. I haven't officially asked you, so you can't include yourself, I retorted with a huff, scratching furiously at my forehead. "You're going to make yourself bleed," Kakashi pointed out. With great reluctance I forced my hand back to my side, trying, and failing, to ignore the intense burning itch on my forehead. "Maybe he'll come around," Kakashi tried again to comfort me. "Who would reject a formal invitation to join my harem after I've saved their life? And everyone they love? And restored their country and culture? Who does that? Rude people, that's who." Kakashi gave me a pitying look. "Stop," I ordered him. "You do not get to pity me, Mr. Perfect Ass." The look went on and my glare turned into a smolder. "You know, if you really want to cheer me up." "Oh, sweet, beautiful glare, how I have missed you." Kakashi abruptly took off ahead of me, choosing not to respond to my hilarious flirtations. The trip back home was silent. I wiped the grave clean, then dipped my towel into the soapy bucket. I pulled it back out and wiped more firmly against Mikato's grave, doing my best to get a shine out of it. Bright Heart rolled over onto her back, her eyes closed as she basked in the sunlight beside me. A couple days after Kakashi and I had returned from our latest mission and we were placed on temporary standby. Tsunade said that Jiraiya would be coming into town soon, which meant it would soon be time for our super important meeting. So, to bide my time, I went ahead and started cleaning up the Uchiha district. Since the massacre, the whole district had been kept pretty empty. All the furniture and personal belongings were cleared out except for Sasuke's family home. No one had moved in. It's not that there were bloodstains everywhere, or it had a bad feeling to it. Frankly, I don't think some people would really care about what it used to be. It's simply that everything went to Sasuke, per clan laws. And Sasuke didn't have the heart to open everything up for sale. Once more, it wasn't that he didn't want to sell the land. A part of him really did, because then maybe living people would chase off the ghosts. He had all the paperwork filled out, had everything ready to close off the Uchiha district for good and open it up as a residential district, but he would retain his family's home for obvious reasons. But when it came down to submitting the paperwork, he couldn't bring himself to do so. So I did it for him. Granted, I used my own name as his temporary proxy since he was partying up with Orochimaru-senpai, but I didn't think he'd mind. He left the paperwork laying out for me on the kitchen table, anyway, so I assumed that's what he wanted. I used some of the money he had so kindly set aside to hire a realtor to do the legwork for me, so hopefully I'd only have to pop by every once in a while to sign some crap. I'd set aside any money I made to give back to Sasuke. Unless he tried to kill us when we met up for him. Then I'm taking that money and building a strip club. I'd call it Bakakashi. It'd become a temple of the goggle gods for all those worthy to come and pray in honor of Madara's sexiness. Second thought, I might do that anyway. Meh. We'll see. A week since we had returned from our last mission, Kakashi swung by my place and asked me to have lunch with him and the Hokage. It was, at long last, finally time to bullshit my way through the ever-important meeting. I followed Kakashi towards the chosen restaurant, doing my best to refrain from taunting him too much. I didn't want to get him riled up before I dropped such big bombshells. Within minutes of arriving, the two of us were seated in a secluded booth, and I was squished in between Shikaku and Kakashi, Jiraiya, and Tsunade on the opposite side of us. I sensed Jiraiya trigger a multitude of seals. Tsunade then looked over at me. "I believe you had something you wanted to tell us, Sakura." "The goggle gods have blessed me with some critical knowledge," I began. "Knowledge about the future?" "Goggle gods," Tsunade repeated, incredulous. I can vouch for some of it," Kakashi said quietly. "Her knowledge when it comes from them has never been wrong." "Shikamaru told me some of it," Shikaku added, voice low. "You were able to give detailed and accurate information about the Sound Four prior to ever meeting them." Jiraiya and Tsunade both still looked dubious, so I took a deep breath and said, "Jiraiya, you trained 3 orphans in the past war. Konan, Yahiko, and Nagato. Nagato had the Rinnegan." Jiraiya's face twitched once before smoothing over, while Tsunade raised an eyebrow. "The Hokage said, Orochimaru and I didn't report about the orphans." "I didn't talk about them with anyone who's still alive," Jiraiya said, staring intently at me. "How do you know about them?" "The goggle gods have blessed me," I bullshitted. I can go on, if you'd like, to prove my knowledge. I can tell you who Naruto's parents are. I can also tell you who was really behind Kurama's attack that night. Kurama. Shikaka repeated. You know him as the Kyuubi, but his real name is Kurama, I explained. Kushina, Naruto's mother, was his previous jailer. Then the man known as Tobi attacked her immediately after she gave birth. A Jinchuriki's seal is weakened when giving birth, you know. Tobi kidnapped Kushina and extracted Kurama before releasing him on Konoha. He wanted to frame the Uchiha clan, because he needed them gone for his ultimate plan. He succeeded in seeding sows of doubt and distrust in those that knew about his attack. Every Umbu who saw him saw his Sharingan eyes and thought someone from the Uchiha clan was behind the attack. This caused a lot of distrust between the village and the clan, and since the clan was already antsy about previous incidents. I trailed off, looking up at Tsunade with a meaningful gaze. I'm about to tell you all something that's gonna drop one hell of a bombshell. Only Jiraiya knows part of the truth. At that, Jiraiya frowned. Go on, Tsunade said. The Uchiha clan was planning a coup, I said. Danzo ordered Itachi to eliminate his clan to prevent civil war. Itachi did as he ordered, but in exchange Sasuke was to be left alive and unaware. Itachi would go down as the big bad villain, so the Uchiha clan would be remembered with honor, and Sasuke would be spared. Pure, cold, and brittle silence filled the booth. Everyone there was an expertly trained shinobi, so each wore masks to hide their genuine horror and surprise. Itachi is your mysterious contact, Jiraiya-sama. He's the one who's been tipping you off about the Akatsuki, I told him. Hold on, Shikaka cut in. Are you seriously saying that a council elder ordered the massacre of an entire clan? There's a secret archive room hidden underneath the Hokage's office, I said, words falling out of my mouth without me even thinking about it. Hiruzen kept every unofficial mission there, documented, in case evidence would be needed later on. You can't access it without the current Hokage's approval. When Tsunade-sama wrote her name down in blood on the Hokage scroll after her orientation, she keyed her blood into the seals that keeps the room hidden. What? Tsunade exclaimed. Oh, I said. How the fuck do I know this? This is starting to get a little creepy. I mean, yeah. Totally. You can access the room by putting some of your blood on the seal. The seal is kept underneath the potted plant in the corner of the office. Once more silence fell between everyone. We need to confirm this first, Tsunade declared, standing up from her booth. Let's move, people. Jiraiya, do you have more privacy seals prepared? Quite a bit, actually, Jiraiya muttered, still giving me a look of genuinely disbelief. As a group, the five of us headed out. As soon as we arrived at the office, Tsunade barked at the guards to stand back and allow Jiraiya to place up more privacy seals. As soon as her old friend gave the clear, Tsunade moved the pot aside, cut her thumb, and dabbed a bit of her blood on the spot where the plot used to be. There was a flash of light and seals glowed around the spot, forming a neat square. When the glow died down, a trapdoor opened up in the center of the room. Cool, I said. Am I badass, or what? How in the fuck do you know this? I'm just going to roll with it. Kakashi leaning over the trapdoor, staring down at it with such a look of incredulous. Kakashi looked down at the trapdoor, then he looked back at me. This is insane. It is what it is, I muttered tiredly. Hiruzen bowed his head. I am glad I prepared for such a day, but I wish it had not come. That is something we can all agree on, Minato muttered. Obito clapped his hands, a look of determination on his face. All right. Let's do this. The scene was gone, and I was left staring at an empty space. The others had all jumped down, it seemed. Was that an episode? It didn't feel like one of my episodes. As a prior schizophrenic patient, I had gotten used to experiencing hallucinations. They were typically reserved for more horrific things, but there were times where I would imagine a friendly person sitting beside me and enjoy a lovely conversation with them. It was hard, incredibly so, to be able to differentiate what was true during the episode and for a time afterwards. The fact that I could distinctly tell that it did not actually happen made me think it wasn't a genuine episode. It didn't feel fake, either. A memory. But whose? The person I thought was me was definitely not me. That memory didn't belong to me if it was in fact a memory. The fact that I had seen Kakashi's team in it may have led me to think that it was Rin who was the only person not there, though a part of me felt it was not her memory, but Obito was much older in that vision. The memory did not line up with the canonical timeline I knew. Obito became Tobi before the age of 15, but he definitely looked almost 18 in that vision. And Kakashi didn't have his scar, in fact, he had both of his eyes. What I say could not have happened in this. In this. Stop. I clutched at my head, sharp pain piercing through it. The intensity of the pain was so severe, my knees buckled and I bowed. And just as quickly as it came, it left. Kakashi's head popped up from the trapdoor. You following? I blinked away the spots in my eyes and gave him a shaky smile. Yep. Deciding to put all those thoughts to the side, I hopped down the trapdoor and entered a room that reeked of mold and dust. Well. You'll probably have a lot of reading to do, I said, looking around the many rows of dusty scrolls. I'm gonna grab lunch. You, Tsunade said, turning towards me and jabbing a finger. You are not to leave this village under any circumstances. Kakashi, accompany her at all times until we get this mess sorted out. If you really are capable of learning all of this. At all times. I whispered, my eyes widening. Does this mean we get to live together again? Sleep together? Kakashi gave Tsunade simultaneously pleading and terrified look. At all times, Tsunade snapped out. I squealed with delight, but then. If you keep me locked up, you'll kill me, the words tumbled out. Danzo will find out and kill me. He has spies in every corner. Over half Yorumbu is compromised with his root soldiers. I have to keep leaving on missions or he'll get suspicious. She's not wrong, Shikaku said quietly. If everything she's said is true, which I'm getting the feeling is the case, then we have to proceed carefully. Definitely no solo missions, Jiraiya said. Kakashi should stay with her, and we should assign someone else. Tree baby? I asked hopefully. Tree, you mean that fellow? Tsunade gave a thin smile. Heh. If I didn't know any better I'd say you read my mind. Kakashi, take Sakura out of here. Shikaku, we need to put a team together. I hopped out of the hole, Kakashi following behind me. You are not sleeping in my apartment again, he told me flatly. I have an extra room, I offered. I'm putting explosives around my bed, he warned. I had a feeling he really would. I'll behave. Then let's go. You're buying me lunch since you're so determined to ruin my days. Ah, come on. Don't be like that. You know I love you. You're buying dinner, too. Okay. Any more bombshells you want to add? What would you say if I told you I would be the mother of your future children? I wondered. I decided against asking that, since I felt like he might overreact a teeny tiny bit and the poor dear already looked so exhausted from all the other bombs I dropped today. Better to give him time to recuperate before I had my fun again. About 3 hours later there was a knock on my front door. Kakashi got up to answer it, and when I arrived I found myself giggling with glee when I saw who it was. Tree baby. I squealed, throwing myself at Tenzo. I'm gonna love on you now, okay? Tenzo said, awkwardly patting my back while I nuzzled into his chest. Senpai. You'll get used to it, Kakashi said airily. It's better to go with the flow than fight it. She's tenacious. I pinched Tenzo's butt and the tree baby screamed like a little girl and threw me away from him. Kakashi caught me before I hit the ground, idly swatting the back of my head. Don't do that. You'll give the poor baby a heart attack. He's not used to your level of crazy. Tenzo put both of his hands over his butt, looking at me in abject horror. You're 13. With the heart of a horny old man, I said proudly. Don't worry, I just had to see where your butt placed on the scale. Solid 6/10, so not bad. A little too stiff for my tastes, but with a little work I think you could make it up to 8/10. What? He whispered. Kakashi is 10/10. I'm his butt advocate, I said with a grin. My butt doesn't need an advocate, and if it did, why can't I be it? Kakashi asked. Because you don't appreciate your butt like I do, I explained with a roll of my eyes. I suppose that's true. No one appreciates my butt like you do. Don't forget it, darling. That's it for part 9. Thank you for watching and see you on the next video.